horror and dark fiction, I don't know. It's something I can get into it. I can get out of it, I think, more easily in my mind. Like my imagination doesn't have to run off as far as maybe some of the cinematography does, at least. So, that's my take. That's how I got into horror. It's just I love science fiction, and that sort of led its way into darker fiction.
Mm-hmm. Mm. I see like movies better than books. Okay. Because books ain't scary enough. I'll be like, no, there's no blood. Nobody getting a head cut off. Like it's just like this wasn't that scary. Yeah, it was horrible. It was horrible. Like I was never going. Yeah, I mean, so have you finished the book, Stephanie?
I have not finished the book. I was doing some speed reading, but I've done a lot of research around the book, and I've read some other sort of scholarly essays around it, and the research around the Doja Boys, and how Tananarive Dew's, I think, uncle or one of her relatives was one of the boys that were in the school. So I've done a lot of that research, and right now in Baltimore there is some litigation going on, a suit against the juvenile detention centers in the area. And it's just very much like I was reading this story, I couldn't help think about like the current events that are going on, that are still going on today, that have very similar traumatic effects. And I can't imagine what any of these children, like it's hard, like, well, Tanana Dew does a good job of imagining it, but it's hard personally to understand what they all went through.
Mm-hmm. And the fact that the main character was 12, I gotta keep reminding me of the fact that the main character was 12 when I was 18. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And Blue was even younger than old man. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So I was reading this book. I was like, you know, and because I think this actually might be the first workbook I've written. Oh, read who inspired Black author. Mm-hmm. Well, I don't think I have any more inspired. Like just from maybe have not discovered them yet. And I was like, okay, well, you know, in a way, it does make sense that like the horror that this like book is about is based in like real life things. Like there is a paranormal aspect, but like there's horror in real life that you can pull from it. So
that's the point.
Yep, it's just like yeah, yeah. Actually, I took 4 classes there. Oh, what? 4 classes? I was playing with New Year's study major. And so we talked about horror as feeding on the anxieties of society. And that's usually the anxieties of society is endangering white women, which is why a lot of classic horror film in is always just a white woman. It's just always the last one who dies. In the 90s, like it became a joke. Oh, black guy dies 1st, which is true because the black people are not. They're the expendable characters, and the white person. Like I'm thinking about Spring thing, Spring 2, but the 2 main characters die at the beginning. Who got there? I forgot. It was Jay Pinkett and it was the other dude. The dude that played love basketball. Oh, yeah. Omar Epps.
Yeah,
he died first, and then like that's become like the joke. But what was I saying? Oh, well, so horror is feeds on the anxieties of society and for white women, which is of course rooted in racism of society. And they're going to be raped by a black person, but black people's horror is extensive because we live with the black women who want to go to a movie. And that was really the point. Like, can we go see this movie? Yes or no? Should be down. And I'm excited to like. There was one that wasn't by a black author, but y'all know that book, American Gods. Okay, it is by like Neil Gaiman. That's the book. He looked like Sandman and all that. I know that we just had a bunch. Just yeah. It's like what? What? Like the art industry is saying no. But I did write American Gods, and I did find it interesting because it was sort of like a horror fantasy mystery, and one of the gods was an African god. And I thought like surrounding that was so interesting, and it was so they were able to like turn it into some horror. Because like I think one of the gods is controlled like a spider, and that represents something different in an evil like culture. It's like Also, horror as a genre is misogyny. There's slashers, and there's like thrillers, and you have mystery horror, which like this one, this actually reminded me of
Emma, Emma, I'm just saying, put yourself in the center. And just you can keep it there because we can hear everybody else clearly. And you guys also introduce yourselves when you speak up, when you talk. You're on live now. We would love to hear your names and maybe if you want to share your Instagrams, we are or other social media handles. We're trying to build a community here. Like you said, it's hard to find a lot of us that like the same thing. So yeah, if you can center yourself in the center of the video. I don't know if you can move the iPad or how it's set up, but that would be perfect because we can probably, if it stays around there and we can still hear other people, it's still pretty clear.
Okay.
All right, that's pretty good. Yeah, let's see.
Yeah. I am Emma. I'm a book lover. And I've been wanting to do a book club mostly to force people to read the books I'm reading. But I also really love horror movies and I could barely get somebody to go see them with me, especially my close friends. I did meet one friend here and friends with this year who goes to see horror movies with. We want just like, I want more people joining us. So I started this club at People's Book Bookstore, so we can talk to meet other Black women who want to read this stuff, and the focus is going to be on Black authors and other women of color authors. And we're not going to meet very much because we're going to go see the movies. So it's just a horror club, not just books, but yeah. And I'm thinking about ways to connect with the community more, and I've been like, should I do a meetup? Should I do a group text? I don't know. So. Okay, hello. My name is Mia. I love books and have not been reading as much as I would like to. So I was really excited to see this book club because one, as I was saying, like, I don't know that Black women enjoy horror as well. And I've loved horror since I was like, watch a movie that just probably sure. It's like, this is scary. Probably also like, Bob's was like my kid genre. With scary stories to tell a daughter can. Are you finished? Yeah, are you finished?
Oh, I remember. Yes, I remember that.
Yeah, are there people in the chat or like?
Right now, I think on Twitch we have about 10 people viewing, and on Instagram there are 3 people who have joined.
Okay, it's birds. Alfred Hitchcock from like the 50s or 60s. Terrifying. And The Exorcist. That's a classic. That's definitely a classic. Yeah, and then I don't remember the other ones. Pill. Yeah. Yeah. And I used to love Goosebumps. I used to love Fear Street. I was ready to die. The first street I really loved the Goosebumps was Choose Your Own Horror. Yes, this is so much fun. You want to like that. Yeah. Some questions. Okay. Answer. Where we mostly talking about word. Yes, the order problems. This is a sick book. I didn't realize it was 500 pages when I picked it. I mean, it's type it big, and I feel like it was kind of a fast read for me. So, but still. First question. Do lay out some of the rules of the Jim Crow Florida people had to adhere to. What stuck out or horrified you the most? Um, so many, but I think one of them was. I mean, I can't remember any specific details, but I felt like it would be too ugly. Like Miss, what's the older lady class? I was. Yeah, no, not Miss Lottie. Lottie, yeah, Miss Lottie couldn't. She had to dumb down her speech when she got pulled over. And even Gloria was like, "Don't let them know how smart you are." Like you had to smile. I think I wrote that down. Like, the everyday indignities of Black people walking, Robbie walking into town, a white man kicking his book. Oh yeah, he could kick his book out of the way because he didn't want to read, and having a smile at the McCormicks. And then I wrote, just like when white girls think Black women are mean, and we are, ain't have to go let them. So who has just walked in is our friend Tina. This is my horror buddy. We go to movies together. So whenever they walk by, we're at the question. There's a lot of rules in society that Black people see and hear to and they don't think. Of course, all of this was real, but they was just so insidious and it's just like, why do I got to do all of this? And I pointed out that like Gloria and Robbie having a smile at the performance. It's just like when white girls think Black girls be if when you having a smile and they face on it, they expect like it's just this expectation that every Black person is thinking, well, you gotta be as a pretty woman. I mean, I've experienced it at one of me. So, and I was just like, I'm glad she pointed that out in the book because I'm like, this stuff still exists. And like, it's the caste system that we have in society that people forget happens, not even unconsciously, but like, just so readily, yes, just so readily, like we have this caste system that certain people are supposed to act a certain way around, people of a higher caste and people.
Well, I mean, just the whole notion of, I mean, code switching at different levels, right? Being able to unmask, right? And having the audacity to be your full self and show up as your full Black self in spaces unapologetically, I think is difficult for us even today. And it's something, even for me, especially in professional places, it's something that I still struggle with navigating. And I think it's one of the reasons why I started Books and Bounty is because I needed to be able to show up in spaces as my full self. And looking at the characters and them not being able to do that at all, like, and how that is just exacerbated by the horrific tragedy of the story. I think it's just very poignant to see how even that has even those traumatic effects still happen.
Right. How far did you get in? Well, ain't none of us in. So we all, it's not even after one. It's okay. It's okay. Um, okay. So this is the other question. I was really surprised by this character. Gloria really seemed to do justice, which was surprising for them. What was Gloria? Gloria is the sister of who I remember the little about it. Yeah. I thought it was surprising given her age that she was just like, oh, I know they're gonna do something. I know this lady broke fast. Yeah, she was 16. She was 16, she turned 17 and sometime in the middle. Yeah. So by that point I feel like she should have known that like this stuff wrong. And well, I sort of feel like, well, I don't know. I'm only let's see. But so far pretty good. I'm okay. I'm almost. But I think there was maybe, well, not even, I know there was some protection that Gloria and Robbie's mom was trying to like do for them. Like, I'm thinking about even like when there's like that, there's like never been like hit or like even like whoops by like my daddy. And the mom wanted to present her that I wonder if there was a little bit of like trying to shield them from the realities of the world in some ways.
That's on around page 115. That was a part of the book I was going to bring up about to answer that question as well. I think that's the scene, the part in the book you're talking about around there where Gloria's like trying to figure out like, wow, he's just a little kid, he's so scared, he's sorry he kicked you, wasn't it bad enough, like again with the justice and trying to protect that protection. I'm not sure if but that's the passage I was going to bring up. I'm wondering if it's the same one you were thinking about.
I did think about that where he been hit by his dad. Which another point, another character said like they was gonna beat their kids because they was gonna get it worse from white people outside, and I've heard that before too, growing up. Not from my parents, but from other adults and other people, and I've always been like, you don't hit me either. So like, yeah, I thought that was interesting. It's just like for me, it revealed a lot of stuff that we had to grow up with, and I'm just like all the stuff with Buddha and Slave One and Jim Crow and we get the pattern over and over. So we're still living with it. Yeah. This is not a spoiler because I don't know what happened at the end. I had the sense of dread throughout the whole book. But at what point did you know that Robbie was never coming home? And I don't know if you did or not. So I just kind of noticed. Like, yeah, I guess I'm still holding out a little. So that's really naive of me, but like maybe something's gonna happen with Gloria and she's gonna be able to get she's trying to relate to Zora Hurston, I think. She was bring everybody. Yeah. You know, Hurston, 30 with Marshall. It was like maybe that'll do, but then there's that part of reality of like, no, because also this is about dealing with so she's no nervous. What did you think of still learning? Okay, that's cool. We also can just talk about horror, you know. This is my last question. I don't seem to do it. Like this is what I like about horror. It's like I like jump scares, and I like the things to do with little bloody. And this one's just like the Hanks was just walking around floating. I'm like, what they got to do? They ghosts. No, in the book, yeah, they get someone. So and on the very first page, talk about his mom was hanging. So that's the thing. Okay, yeah. So he got most kids in the society can see both. He can see a lot. So after school, there's hints everywhere. But they don't get drugged. They don't feel nobody. I'm like, why? I mean, just can see the other side. Yeah, yeah. It's making some of it gets very like sensory. Like smell them. You can like feel them sometimes. Yeah, they're tactile. Yeah, but otherwise, yeah, at least hard. It wasn't scary. The only thing I was horrified with was just the way the boys were. But not really horror of like scary horror of this was a reality at a yeah. Well, we just learned it's still a reality because we're I think the city of Baltimore. So is somebody. Can you talk a little bit more about?
Yeah, let me I can pull up something real quick on the screen. So one of the historical references is to the Doja Boys. And I'm showing that on the screen instead of the video right now, ladies. And this is an NPR article about the Doja School for Boys in Florida, which has gone under many names, whereas 300 some men were sent as boys to the reform school in the small panhandle town of Mariana in the 1950s and 60s. Since then, article was written in 2012. They have joined together over the years to tell their stories of the violence administered in a small building on the school's ground they knew as the White House. So that makes an appearance in the novel as well. And what I was talking about, yeah, so there are additional evidence of abuse that has come out since, but this is an article from the Baltimore Banner, and I think they're going to be running an investigative series on this about lawsuits alleging decades of abuse in Maryland's juvenile detention centers. As we all know, there's education school to pipeline, systematic racial systematic system that's affecting Black and brown people across the United States. And we know that this systematic effort starts young. And I think that Tanana Reeves-Du's poignant effort at, as she often does, bringing horror and making the reality of horror in our own lives as Black people. And it's something that you see in other dark fiction and in science fiction authors. I think Octavia Butler did the same thing with her speculative fiction novels. It's the traumas that have trickled down have not left us. We are trying to rate them of not just within ourselves, but within society. But when you see articles like this and issues about, allegations that have now proven true in many situations of abuse in juvenile detention centers, when many of the youth in the detention centers probably would be much better off and much more productive contributors to society if they were helped in a different way instead of sending them to jail. So I just wanted to give some insight about, how we're talking about those, repeated patterns. And you can just see it in
Florida. So the Mythic Boys is about two about a young boy who go to one of the prisons in Florida, and he was a little main character, but not that much. And then Justin Awards, Sing I'm Very Sick, which is about young boy's parents who split time in the famous Mississippi prison, Parchman prison. And he sees a ghost of a boy that was in prison there. It's basically, Parchman is a farm, like they imprison people. And he sees a ghost of a boy that was in prison there most of the time. So, I mean, these stories have been told about boys being in prison, and I was reading it. I was like, "This just like just the world." So,
And what book was that again, Emma?
Sing I'm Very Sing, which is I wouldn't classify it as for more Southern Gothic, but it's definitely, and of course, Beloved is supposed to it too. Yeah. Oh, we'll have any more thoughts before we talk about the that's what book club really is. It's just a call. If you talk about the book for a minute and you talk about stuff. Okay.
Have you guys read any other Tananarives dudes work?
This is my first one, and I've been trying to read.
Girl, let me tell you, that is why I joined this club, because she is one of my favorite authors. I have been reading, so let me go put some up. I have been reading her for over 20 years now. I started reading her in college around 06, right? And she, if you know, book talk and the craze around dark romance, paranormal romance, vampires, and all that jazz, she started it. So let me pull out 2 books.
So education.
Yes.
You know what? I did read Edgar Allan Poe. Damn, I was obsessed. Oh, oh. Okay.
So these are her like Black vampire series, My Soul to Keep and My Soul to Take. I'll put some of these in the description. So everybody, this is live now, but we'll post highlights and snippets after. Emma's going to be on Books and Bounty TV tomorrow for an interview. We're going to take a deeper dive into the book and also give recommendations around some of the other books that we talked about tonight. So make sure you check that out tomorrow night, 10 o'clock on Books and Bounty TV. But in the meantime, Tananarive Due has been, I've been a fan of her. So this is her Black Vampire series. She also recently...
What series of Black vampires?
Huh? What'd you say?
You said there's a series of vampires?
Yeah, so there's 2 books. There are I think there may be one other one as well. So My Soul to Keep and My Soul to Take. And they're by Tananarive Due as well. And then another book, like we were talking about earlier, Emma, how these long books, so the one tonight, The Reformatory, is about 500 pages. They're difficult to get through. How much? It's long and it's difficult to get through. And so I always have like a collection of short stories to read in between time, in the meantime. And she has one called The Wishing Pool and Other Stories. I don't know. Let me make sure it's on the screen correctly.
Thought about going and starting a story club where we could read short stories instead of a whole book. Short stories are my favorite genre. It's the genre I write the most. Actually, most. I started 2 novels.
Yeah.
I'm like, and then I wrote 2 books of short stories, and I was just like, oh, this is my jam. But yeah, what was I going to say about Tananarive? Oh, she also has a story in the Jordan film anthology about some friend I pulled over, so that. But I don't know. I was gonna say something, but I forgot it. So, but I'm looking forward to reading some more more overtly stark horror other than oh, I know what I was gonna say. What did y'all think of the writing? I have thoughts. So it was the writing itself. It was okay. Yeah, it's hard to read. It was okay. It didn't reel me in. There's a book that I read called Night Film. It's posted in it's a horror book. It's 600 pages, and I would read it again. Boom. It's so good. So writing is important for me with reading long books. I could be in and out, and I may never pick a book up again. Yeah. Well, it took me. I bought this book at the beginning of September. I picked it up 7 times before I was like, I gotta read it. I've read it. It's not. Yeah. I have some super quotes. Sometimes I think this book could have been 300 pages. 100 because she uses words that's not needed in sentences. Like there's one part where she's just like, Miss Nettie got her name. Yeah, woman. Miss Lottie was listening to Nat King Cole. She's listening to Nat King Cole, a Negro. And I was like, you don't need to explain Nat King Cole to an audience that's probably reading. You don't need to, I don't think you need to explain Nat King Cole to anyone. This to any American. And so sometimes she explains things that doesn't need to explain. And other things, she doesn't have a whole lot of specificity. Like sometimes, Robbie would say, it smelled like something stink. And I was like, what is this? What is it remind you of, Robbie?
Yes, like make me feel it. Don't just tell it to me, right? Make me feel it. I'm reading a book for review right now, and they do that. So yeah, keep going, Emma, because I get what you're saying.
So in horror, it has to have a lot of specificity, which is why I got other books. I will write Night Fell Down. It's long, but I'll borrow it too. I could not put that book down. Is it horror? Yeah.
What's it called?
Night Film. I can't remember who it's by, but I was looking at books that were called the Turn of the movie, and that was they never made it a movie, but the books are so good. Go see a movie. We'll have to go see it. Yeah. Go see it. I love it. It is. I mean, hey, rent the movie theater. Yeah, we gonna rent the book. We gonna rent a movie theater out. Oh, Stephanie, thank you. Oh, you introduce her. I think. Wait, I want to think. She a DJ. She got a DJ. Talking about not working. Yeah, this is a personal thing. Yeah. I think we'll go to the movie. I love going and watching movies. Also, George Saunders is not a horror writer. I would call him more surreal. But there's one story he wrote that still freaks me out. It still terrifies me. It's called The Cyclical Girl Diaries. Oh, I think I know.
The Cyclical?
The only reason why we can't read George Saunders, of course, he's white and got a other time. I don't know what part. I don't know because it's not that serious. I mean, I think it's smile too. It's not that good. It came across as the movie. I don't know if you guys have covered it. It's so deep. It's like an artist, like a music artist performing. You just kind of figure out who the villain is. This gave that same vibe to me. But there was some really good part of this too. But people are loving it. But people are loving it. Second, to me, I wasn't totally impressed. But the reviews are it's getting great for movies and wait for streaming. I would say, wait. I told people to wait. Okay. I mean, I got to see it for free, and I got to see it. And Nina DePosta, that's her name. I'm sorry, Black woman director. Nina DePosta. She did a Marvel film, but she also did a remake of Sam. So I saw it. So my thing was dope. I got to see it like with was kind of cool with that, because there was some parts that I was like, this isn't supposed to be funny, but I'm looking and I'm finding funny. Like, I don't think this is supposed to be really cool. Yeah. I would love. I mean, we could read some of white people because we got to read them. Marisha, The Lottery is another short story that got me into it. When I read that one, I was like way too young, probably too young. And The Telltale Heart, The Pastor of Amontillado, and then I read recently the one that's on Netflix right now, The Ball in the House of Usher. Yeah, that was good. I didn't see it. I didn't finish the show. But I did. Let's see. Which one was black? Or Titan? There's another. The little black girl and her mom says black. Someone I went to talk with that I was really good friends with. I think he is the monster. Oh, yeah, he's in that movie. I like that movie. Everyone says it's really good. It should have way more emotional. I gotta watch it. Anybody got any favorite horror films? Oh yeah, Cabin in the Good Surprise.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like I love how many monsters they have in that. like it's one time where you're like, oh my god, like the monster, like it's like so many monsters in that movie, and people don't make movies like that. It's like one main monster, and that's the main storyline. But that it was like 100 monsters. Yeah, it's old. Yeah, I streamed it on like 2 years for free.
Somebody just told me about that. You know, I'll be at the bar talking to people. I don't know
I love
why.
it too.
And I'm like, hey girl, and then she recommended we went to go see Love is Blind in a bar. Which
Oh yeah, you talking about science cinema?
I went to Buddy's at the soul food place for Detroit. Yeah, smoothies. It's called Cabin in the Sky. Like you said, I don't know. Anyway, Cabin in the Woods.
I love Hereditary. It's all in the movie. I wasn't totally. I mean, it had parts, but it didn't totally freak me out like I thought it would.
There was a lot of like anticipation that was there for me. I'm like, it was dread. There's a lot of dread. I didn't feel like scared, but I felt so much dread. And then Toni Collette doing her grieving, I was like,
yeah, it was good acting, very good acting.
yeah. So there is a movie called Barbarian, which
I still haven't seen it.
So
yet.
Tanara do recommended it on her thread. She was like, Barbarian is the best horror movie I've seen. I was like, oh, she said it. I'm gonna watch it.
Oh goodness.
To this day, I see them.
Well, that would be a good one. That probably might be a good one. That's a good one to put on the list then, I think.
Yeah.
This is not a movie, but have you guys watched the TV show From?
Oh my god, I love that show.
I started to love that show, but I stopped.
What?
But it's not bad.
From FORN?
Yeah, it's
on us.
yeah,
Okay.
it has a lot. It has, let's just say this, it has plenty of subplots, and you have to. It's on season 3, and we're just starting to get answers to questions. But it's good. Like the acting is so good, and you can. It's sometimes you look past some of the cheesier parts of the horror. Like
Cheesy, like front of me. I'm like, I
love cheesy horror. I just saw what's the one where there was witches in high school? The Crab. I just saw the Crab.
Crab is good. But it's not cheesy. That's not cheesy.
It's a good horror.
Yeah, but it's not cheesy.
Yeah.
But you might like some because there is something.
I do like
but that's why I think people maybe really like it.
So I can distinguish between me liking something because it's cheesy, because I just like bad stuff, to it actually being good.
Yeah,
Like,
I
that's
mean,
my
people
thing.
love their raising a lot of times, and I'm so cool.
And I also want to see, what's that Disney one movie? I know I brought it up, but I really want to see it. The stuff says, I gotta see it.
So many movies have been inspired by that movie, particularly the ending of that movie. I was like, oh my God, this looks like it reminded me of the movie It Follows.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So that's what the group chat is gonna be. Also, I would love to make a graphic for this group. I looked up some people. I just stopped looking them up at some people.
Or it could be something really simple. You can go on Canva, simple thing, and then once you really ready to make a
Instagram. I thought about making an Instagram too. That's what we want to do.
Yeah. I do it small fits doing. Once it's like you get like 20 plus, all right,
Make the page, right? Because if we do, we also want people who.
Yeah, and I would get people to sign up to eventually, Emma, I think you should have the Black Girls Horror Guide newsletter. I think that would be a good way to get people involved and keep track of, making people engage.
Or essays I want to write, because I love Catholicism, because I think it's weird. The religion, Catholicism, I think it's weird because they gotta drink the blood of Christ and eat his flesh. Are we cannibal?
Huh?
Like, drink the blood of Christ. What's this?
It's strange. But
None. I really like. There's one called. I don't think it's horror, but it was nominated for cinematography for this year. I forgot that book, but I thought it was really good and really, and a lot of the audiences, they were vampires. Remember that? Oh, that like that, but that wasn't horror. But sure. El Conde.
And I think Left and Right went in like this. I think it might be on Tuesday too. I'm not yeah, I just read.
Any final thoughts about the book? I did want to highlight that it could have been better written, but I love the idea of the story. Trying to explore a lot of stuff that happened, but in a creative way.
Not so straight on. This is what's going on during the time.
I actually thought it was pretty straight on. It started like, yeah, I thought it. So it like starts with the incident, which is just like kicks them out. He kicks Lyle, and then he gets arrested on speeding. No, actually, you don't even get arrested. He gets picked up by the traffic police and judge, and sentenced without a trial. And then you go straight. Like I feel like it was very, very like nothing really. It was surreal. But it's the old together. Right, but the second day, but the first day of him being at the boys got with, I was just like, this artist is born again.
That's the way to go through that. It was that was why people be like, why do people cross over? Like I'm like, it was hard that really hard. People could get out of the piece they ran and they did not look back. Oh yeah. It's sad, but I mean, have to do.
It's just wild because I mean, I feel like we all have like living. I did family members who like,
So I had a family that did it. Yeah. They used to cross over and nobody ever saw them again.
they poured into the children. So it's just like, it's just like, yeah. I feel like if there wasn't a ghost aspect, you could take the ghost aspect out of it, and it could just be a yeah, it could be like just a telling someone's story. But it's gonna take a lot of fiction. Yeah, I'm gonna finish it tomorrow for last reading, then I gotta do some. So I got here's my final thought. But I got the audio book of one book and speed. I can't get up so bad, but I get it. I'm like, we're gonna get through it. I didn't finish the book. I read the book. I mean, I read a whole book every day. I read it every day. It's pretty quick. I was looking at my history. I was like, girl, you are 4 books behind your goal. But some books are hard to read. Yeah, some books are hard. This was hard for a lot of reasons, but also the horror of what's happening. It's hard to.
I've learned to not be guilty and put books down and just say, I can't get through it. I'd much rather read a new book. And if I get back to the book that wasn't as engaging or, I'll get back to it.
Actually, would be not finished for me if this wasn't my book. Like, I would have stopped on page 1.
Well, that's a blunt start reaction. That's a good impression. That's it. Sometimes it's like that.
Yeah, I do want to read her vampire stuff. I was doing some more straightforward.
It's good. These are good.
Or I'll start with a short story. You know what? I think I'm gonna send y'all some short stories. My favorite ones by white authors. Like, so have y'all read The Lottery? Charlie Jackson.
I put that in there. I put that in the chat. That's something I want to note. Mm-hmm.
Shirley Jackson is really famous. She's old. House. Yeah, I remember. She died a long time ago. But anyway, this one is Shirley Jackson Moore. But it's just, I read The Lottery. They did age like 11. Some ridiculously young age. It's still to this day. It's weird. So, okay, I'm gonna send the Simple Girl Fire Diaries. If y'all haven't read it, have you read it? And your island cover. Oh my God. What age for it? I don't know. I can't even have probably a book with my mom. I like the JoJo version. It's very short. Mm-hmm.
Oh, and sidebar, let the right one in to go through my book break.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I feel like this was good. Okay, so next book, we can talk about it. Actually, I'm gonna put on my Instagram, so I'll put a list. I saw Stephanie that she put in the form that she really liked, Mariana and Interest. I just picked up one of her books. I haven't read it yet. It's a sunny place where shady people are so expensive things. Short stories, the horror is regular. It's horror. Oh, I haven't started it yet.
I'm gonna put it in the chat and then put it up on the screen too.
Yeah. Oh, this might not be the best one. This I mean, it's supposed to be.
How many people are in the book?
Us.
Oh, I mean, I don't mind coming out here. This is the best location for y'all. Where do you live? I'm in like what? East. Like that's a big area. So I'm like closer to like Friendship. Oh. But at nighttime, like I come from work, so it's not that hard. Yeah. So it's average. Yeah. So we got that. Those rules which I've already read, which is this book. It's called Ghost. I like it. Oh, look, I got my background together. Not that I never actually have this. This the first buddy is by a Korean person. Oh god, it's not even. It's just like surreal. The first story is about this girl who was haunted by some material from her toilet that was made from her poop and her period. Ooh, and like hair and like the material haunts her. Ooh, and haunts her daughter for first. I like it. Talk about I have a sidebar whole period sanctuary Instagram where I shared like help about it, but I also like share menopause. But I love anything that a book that talks about it or anybody said like Katy Perry said that the MTV with like right. So yeah, so it song gets pretty graphic about period. She was like she looked at the toilet with spread and I was like, oh, she got a period, and it was just so long. I'm reading. I want to share like books that talk about it. Yeah, I want to learn. I put it in the group chat. Did you? You get okay, you do it, and then Stephanie out add it too.
Okay.
Oh, maybe that's the thing. I just want a graphic to put on our little thing for now. So yeah, we can. There's also my sister, the serial killer, which is from my other book, Love versus Weekend. Not horror, it's more comedy, but it's like a woman who, oh, I say it. This girl, this young woman who kills her partner. Just cause they got on her. She killed her brother, so they got her on live. Yeah. I'm like, oh, that makes sense to me. This one, never was not like her. It's an indigenous. I remember putting this on my list. Oh, I do. I've seen this on the store. Before, never was there. That's a horror. Yeah, indigenous horror would be good too, but they've been with this horrible stuff. You read that one? It's on my list, but it's on my list. I remember the first. Oh my god, yeah, it's weird. There's those people in the thing, so nobody reads. Yeah, I think they'll, oh, we got high, right? And so I'm just going to decide our next book in the chat and then read it by 30 or something.
Okay.
And decide.
That'll work. I think that'll be a good idea. And I think the 2-month cycle is a good for reading schedule according to everybody when we first started talking about our reading goals.
Yeah. Yeah, I kind of let go of my reading goal thing, but then I decided on Christmas break I'm going to read a book every day until I catch up.
Mm-hmm.
Come up with your reading goal. 52 is weird. It's a book a week. I did it last year, but in all seriousness, the reason why I got it done is because I had an artist residency for a month, and I didn't have internet, so service, nothing, or too many people, nothing. So all I had to do, I was supposed to be writing my book, and I ended up reading it.
Mm-hmm. It's now that I'm trying to like write more in-depth content about what I'm reading and like give content to booksandbounty.com and other places that want content about what I'm reading. I'm not getting as much reading done. Like I started this so I would be more accountable for my reading goals.
Yeah, once you're working, you're not reading. You like are awful. I did it for the 2 days, but it also is a hard book to get through. So I'm like, if I really don't have time and I have to like put more effort, my effort is like watch a book. I'm still incredible book. It'll be like introduction to any other book. Yeah. Oh, and if the pick a book they have it here, it'll be 6 minutes tomorrow.
Actually, any book that's on that list, I know, for any book, it's 15% off. I want to go to a book club. There's a couple books around this. It was a second book club.
I'm going to see if we can dial back in. But in the meantime, I'll pull up some more information about the Doja Boys. And I'll link to the story that I'm about to show now. This is an NPR story, so to make sure you have all these details. Start this in a minute.
From NPR News, this is All Things Considered. I'm Melissa Blog. In a small town on Florida's Panhandle, researchers are working to unravel a mystery. It involves the Dozier School for Boys, a notorious state-run institution that closed last year after more than a century. Former residents of the school say they were subjected to physical abuse, including severe beatings, and that some boys died as a result. State investigators examined the allegations last year, but declined to bring charges. Now, as NPR's Greg Allen reports, a team from the University of South Florida is using science to determine how many boys are buried there, and if possible, who they were.
They're called the White House Boys, a group of men, more than 300, who all had one thing in common. They were sent as boys to the state-run reform school in Marianna, Florida. Over the last decade, they joined together and began telling their stories of abuse and terrible beatings administered in a small building on the school's grounds, a building known as the White House.
You didn't know when it was coming. These were not spanking. These were beatings, brutal beatings.
Jerry Cooper is 67 now. He was 16 years old in 1961 when he was sent to what at the time was called the Florida School for Boys. He'd been running away from home and hitchhiking when he was picked up by an AWOL Marine driving a stolen car. A county judge charged him with car theft, sent him to the school. Some of the kids, like him, were charged with crimes. Cooper says others were there for running away from home or because they didn't have families.
We had many, many boys that was there for smoking in school that were incorrigible. We weren't bad kids. We might needed help in some respect, but that wasn't the place to find it, I'll tell you that.
Over the years, the Dozier School for Boys had several names. It opened in 1900 as the Florida State Reform School, 1,400 acres west of Tallahassee. Throughout its history, the school was known for its harsh conditions and brutal treatment. Over the years, succession reports and commissions called for reforms, but little changed. Cooper says he did his best to stay out of trouble, but after several weeks, he learned about the beatings firsthand. School staff got him out of bed at 2 a.m. one morning, took him to the White House, where he says they threw him on a bed, tied his feet, and began beating him with a leather strap.
The first blow lifted me a foot and a half off that bed. And every time that strap would come down, you could hear the shuffle on the concrete because their shoes would slide. And, you could hear the sound.
Cooper passed out, but a boy in the next room later told him he counted 135 lashes. As incredible as it may sound, Cooper's story is not uncommon. There are dozens of White House boys with similar tales of beatings they received at the school in the 1950s and 60s. Several years ago, they began telling their stories in newspaper accounts and TV reports. Florida's former governor, Charlie Crist, ordered a state investigation into the allegations of abuse, torture, and deaths alleged at the school. The Florida Department of Law Enforcement interviewed the White House boys and former staff, but said it couldn't find enough evidence to support the allegation.
It all boils down to civil liability. They do not want anybody to be able to have factual evidence which would make them have to pay for these, what I consider to be crimes.
Roger Kaiser is a White House boy who helped form the group and who about his experiences at the school in the late 1950s. That state report also found no evidence indicating a staff member was responsible for any student deaths. Kaiser doesn't accept the state's conclusion.
No, there's just too many stories. I know of one that I personally saw die in the bathtub that had been beaten half to death. I thought he'd been mauled by the dogs because I thought he had ran. I never did find out the true story on that. It was the boy I saw that was dead that came out of the dryer. They put him in one of those large dryers.
State investigators say that using school records, they were able to identify 31 former students interred in the school cemetery. Records show 50 other boys also died at the school, with no indication of where most are buried. But in recent months, researchers from the University of South Florida have been spending time on the school grounds working to answer some of those questions. All right, Matilda, let's go. Like a farmer driving a high-tech plow, archaeologist Richard Estabrook pushes part-mounted ground-penetrating radar equipment over an area near the school's old cemetery. Instead of crops, Estabrook is plowing for data, information that identifies grave sites. He stops pushing for a moment to show what appears as wavy lines on his equipment screen. Sign another grave.
This whole disturbance as it goes down there. See how these are all pretty much uniform going down?
Lines
And all of a sudden, it's lines across here, but all of a sudden you start to see this disturbance being very different.
Yes.
In this area, that's the classic indication of a bullshit.
Forensic anthropologist Erin Kimmerly is leading the research at the Dozier School. She's an associate professor at the University of South Florida, became interested in hearing the White House boys' stories. At the cemetery, just clearing the woods to the school, there are 31 crosses to mark those buried here. That section and its surrounding areas, Kimberly already identified 49 grave sites. Some, she says, may contain more than one person. For her, though, one question remains hard to answer. Why are there no records of where any of the boys who died at the school are buried?
Yet you look at the state hospital, the state prisons, the other state institutions at the time, there are very meticulous plots you can reference. Or if you're a family member today, you can say, where is, my great aunt's buried, and they can show you exactly where. So, why that didn't happen here, I don't know, but that does stand out.
Kimberly says identifying who's buried in the graves would require exhuming the bodies, something that can only be done if a family member of one of the deceased requests it. And that's where Glenn Varnado comes in. Varnado is a businessman from Central Florida whose uncle Thomas was sent to the school in the 1930s when he was 13 years old. A month later, he was dead. Varnado wants to exhume his uncle's remains, bring them back for burial in his family's graveyard. He's hoping Kimberly's research will make that possible, but he believes the cemetery where she's been working isn't the only one on the school grounds. In the 1990s, Varnado visited the school, at that time still open, and asked to see his uncle's grave. He says the school staffer directed him not to the cemetery where Kimberly is working, but to another location.
He took me to a second place and said, here's where we believe the 5 kids that died in the fire in 1914 are buried, and here's where a good possibility, because of the timeline, that your uncle could be buried here.
Varnado isn't sure where that second cemetery is located. Kimberly and many of the White House boys believe it's on a section of school grounds that's up for sale. That sale, though, is now on hold. Last week, Varnado went to court and secured a temporary injunction that halts it until his uncle's remains are found.
There's absolutely no question and no doubt that people that worked at that facility during the late 80s and early 90s knew then and know now that there are other places on the grounds of that school where children are buried.
After blocking them for months, the state has now agreed to allow Kimberly and her team access to the rest of the school grounds. The White House boys believe Kimberly's work will help uncover the truth about what happened at the school. Eventually, they hope to receive an apology and compensation from the state of Florida for the abuse they suffered there. Greg Allen, NPR News, Miami.
You guys can visit Simon & Schuster, who publishes Banana Review, The Reformatory. Learn more about the book. As you can see, it's available online, but I highly encourage you to buy indie. So if you have a favorite local bookseller, shout out to Snug Books, Charm City Books, and others in the Baltimore area. Snug Books is all located in Northeast Baltimore on Harford Road in Laurelville community. They actually are having a spooktacular on the 26th, which is this weekend. I'll try to be there if I can live with Books and Bounty TV, but we'll see how that works out on Saturday. So make sure you visit Snug Books. As you can see here, People Books located in Tacoma Park is the place tonight for the Black Girls Horror Guide, hosted by Emma. You can find her at Emmanism. So that's at EMMANISM on Instagram and others. Emma will be hosting in November a movie review and club meeting. And then we will be meeting again, I think, in February for a book review. We're still deciding on that book, but it could be, I think we're leaning towards one of Mariana Enriquez's stories. I have her collection in dark fiction called The Things We've Lost in the Fire. And then I think, what was the other book? I'm trying to scroll up in our chat here. Oh, okay. And then one of the considerations for the next book, and I hope we do pick this one, is because I have not read it yet, is excuse me, Mariana Enriquez's book called A Sunny Place for Shady People. It's translated by Megan McDowell. So I'm really interested in that. So shout out to Emma for that sort of feedback. We've been giving that recommendation. I hope we get that for the next book. So let's see. And in the meantime, I'll leave you with some lo-fi while we wait to see if Emma can rejoin. And if not, we'll be ending the stream soon. But in the meantime, please join the chat if you have any recommendations for us to review for the Black Girls Horror Guide. We can pass them along to Emma. Please put them in the chat. Some of the chat today, we have plenty of recommendations. You can catch us live on Twitch. However, highlights and clips will be posted to YouTube and elsewhere. But if you want to catch us live, all the quick snippets, sneak peeks, it's exclusive. Make sure you follow us on Twitch. We are a new content creator streaming on Twitch in their recently published writing and reading creative category. So we're proud to be one of the first producers. Help us get the channel to grow, support the live streaming efforts at literary events in Baltimore and beyond. If you have questions or would like to be a sponsor of Books and Bounty TV, either at our live events at the Traveling Book Nook, or to sponsor segments on Books and Bounty TV every Tuesday night, please contact me. You can contact us, Steph at Books and Bounty or info at Books and Bounty. You can also check out more information on booksandbounty.com. So I'm going to check in with Emma, see if she is available to rejoin and say bye. But if not, again, make sure you follow us next time for the book, the Black Girls Horror Guide. Show you a little bit of my YouTube. So you can see here on YouTube, everyone, there are a few not a few, but you can see some of the more popular videos. Recently, we're live streaming from the Silent Books Publishing Fundraising Happy Hour. Shout out to Motor House, which is a bar, kitchen, and art collective nonprofit on North Avenue in Baltimore, Maryland. Silent Books Publishing was raising money to do the work of telling Black and Brown stories from the Baltimore area and beyond. They are a self-publishing partnership that will work with self-publishing authors. These are two dynamic young women, Destiny and Angel. They are also both, Angel is also published. They are both published authors as well. So you can check them out at silentbookspublishing.com. We recently had one of their partnering authors on Books and Bounty TV, Stephon Folks, with his book, Project Blackbean. So make sure you check them out, silencebookspublishing.com. Hi, Mellow in Tears. Thanks for joining. I don't know if you heard, if you were available for the live stream of Emanism's The Black Girls Horror Guide. We were talking about the reformatory and other stories. But if you weren't, make sure you follow her on Instagram. We're trying to decide what the next book and movie we'll be meeting about. If you're a fan of horror and fiction, Emma is an expert. And we'll be getting more recommendations from Emma tomorrow night on Books and Bounty tomorrow, Wednesday night. We're still trying to confirm the date, but this week we'll be talking to Emma and getting recommendations for the rounding up the end of spooky read season. So tune into Books and Bounty tomorrow night at 10. We're still confirming if that may have to get moved to later in the week. I'm sorry, not Wednesday, but Tuesday or Friday. But we'll keep you posted. So thanks for joining Mellow and Tears. Hope you follow. Please share the channel. We're trying to grow the writing and reading category on Twitch. And so make sure you subscribe and share.